Hello and welcome to the final episode of the ORCA Countdowns coverage of Backyard Season 3 Exile. It's been an exciting 4 weeks. I think the deep dive that I did with Jules was really fantastic. If you haven't had a chance to check that out, you've got to spare almost 3 hours to listen to two people talk about an LRG that happened 5 years ago or 4 years ago. Go ahead. It's a good time. And then I had my deep dive with Hal. I was able to track down Hal, and he was fantastic. Such great insights to the game he played. I thought that one of the most fascinating things he talked about is how he planned to flip at the merge, and it just couldn't happen because it was just a pagonging of orange, and he had to go with the train. Then we had the tea party, one of the best tea parties we've had so far. I tried desperately to get the star of this season, Andrew, to appear on it. He messaged me. You wouldn't believe it. He messages on Facebook just the exact way that he talks in the show, and therefore I assume talks in real life, which is absolutely incredible. But yet I couldn't get him to come on. He's a very busy, important man, still seems to work for Treasury from what I can gather, flying around the country. So we had Maddie and we had Ben and we had Zach, and all of them were fantastic. That was some great coverage. And now the final episode, we get to talk to Kyle and Bryan about everything that went on behind the scenes in this season. And from my understanding, it was a bit of a shit show. So I think they can maybe fill us in with some of the trials and tribulations they had to get it here, why they decided to make another season 2 weeks after they made season 2. Bit of some crazy decisions by them. And I'm interested to dive deep into all of it. But before I do that, and we'll get into the awards first, but next month, probably starting next week, assuming I can finish my binge, it's actually a pretty long season, like 13 eps, is Melbourne Survivor 2 Warren Dirt, or Warren Dirt as I like to call it, as we continue the elemental aspects of Melbourne Survivor. That season is officially, we're going to start ranking them now, according to all of you, the 7th best LRG ever made in the 11 that have been made. So we're going to start that coverage. I'm sure it's going to be really exciting. It's one of the first LRGs I ever watched, along with Backyard 2. So very excited to get into that. But without further ado, let me bring in Kyle and Bryan, who I understand are busily getting ready for another season of Backyard, perhaps very, very soon, maybe this weekend. But they've still made time to join us, and we are very appreciative of that. Welcome, Kyle and Bryan.
Hello.
Hello.
We are crazy people.
Can confirm.
Is that wall familiar? Did I see that? Have I seen this wall before? Is this a common backdrop for you guys?
I don't know, is it?
I'm not sure. We are preparing for a Backyard 6, which is filming this weekend, and we're trying to figure out which way we could angle the laptop that wouldn't give away anything in the background, and this is what we decided on.
Mm-hmm.
You're already there.
You're not allowed to see. No, we just have a lot of secrets stored behind this wall.
Okay, sure. Now, you have to excuse me. I've decided to go with the buff. I've been growing my hair. As you watch these shows, you'll see the progression of my hair, and that's because I believe I've got a better chance of getting cast on these things with longer hair. Because when I cast, you get like a million guys with short brown hair. Boring. Long-haired guys, in you go. So that's the goal. And I don't have a backyard buff yet, but I'm wearing a Playing with Fire. This is an Uncharted Waters one that goes very nicely with my outfit. But I believe I have a number of backyard buffs on the way at some point.
Yes,
you do.
Thank you for supporting the current Indiegogo campaign.
Oh, everyone get on there, support them, and you get the buff. And I'm going to have a wild collection soon, and then I'll be able to wear them when I do this coverage. So before we get into the season and talk about everything that this season was and that could have been, we need to do the awards. And as always, I like to get your view on who you think might have won these awards. Call out your friends about how you think they've gone. I'm on the wrong thing. MVP of the season. Who do you guys reckon?
Andrew.
I'll say Halim.
Andrew is the runaway winner. Well, it's not really runaway. He's got 10 votes, but Howard did get 8. So it wasn't a landslide. And in third place, we have Zach. That's for Zach.
Yep.
He was a big part of the season. Great underdog story. Really enjoyed him. The Annabelle Award for Best Pre-Merge Boot. And before you guess, everybody got votes. All of them.
Okay. Oh, nice.
Yeah. I wonder if Kiara gets a bump here.
Because people have seen her again since. I feel like Liz also has a lot of supporters.
Yeah. I'll go Steven.
I'll say Liz.
It was Stephen. Well done.
Yeah.
You're on fire, Bryan. Stephen got 8 votes. Jeff got 7 votes. Liz got 4 votes. I think you're right. It's some Melbourne people voting for her. Kiara got 3, and I think you're absolutely right. There's some reason for that. And James and Sammy both got 1 vote each.
Cool.
Yep.
Nice.
But everyone liked, there was someone, all of them had a vote to play. So that's really interesting. Very positive. Which one-time player would you like to see again? So obviously not included in this was Kiara or Kath.
I'll go Andrew.
Yeah, I think people would say Andrew.
Andrew scored 8. Absolutely. He's the winner. Then Halim on 6.
Yep.
Then Zach on 4. Samara on 3. And Ben picked up 2 votes, and Liv picked up 1 as well. So, bit of love.
Great. Yeah, great.
Sharing the love. It's good.
Okay, is the sign? This is going to change to, should it be 7 or 6 in the next voting? But on this one, is this season too low or just right? Should it have been in the top 7, or is it appropriately placed in the bottom 4?
I think people said it's just right. There's one other option, right?
Yeah, I'll go just right as well.
Yeah, 10 people said it was just right, and 14 said it was too low. But considering probably most people voting on this were on the season, I would I think that's a balanced outcome.
Yeah.
Okay, so on a scale of 1 to 11, 1 is the best. Where would you rank Halim's game compared to that of the other 10 LRG winners? And I'll give you some reference for the ones we've had to date. Currently, Toby is on 6.33, but no one really saw his game at all, so I don't think it's a fair justification. Sally is on 6.20, and Jeremy from Canberra 1 is on 5.4.
Okay. They're all very close, aren't they?
Yeah.
5.
Yeah. So wait, am I just ranking whether I think that they're
like what the average is?
What the average is?
Tell me if you think they're better than all those people, or should be somewhere in them.
I'll preface this with I haven't seen a lot of other LRGs, but I would predict that Hal is in the upper echelon of LRG winners. That's a bold call for someone who hasn't seen the other.
Well, you're right, Bryan. You're on fire tonight. He has the best so far of the ones we've done. He's considered 4.79 out of. So 1 is the best. He's 4.79.
Yeah, cool.
I think what is a very strong game. And now we have the ORCA Awards, the most important award. All those other awards were just for a bit of like the warm up. You have a warm up. Now I've got the wording from Annabelle because I do very poorly at remembering it, and she's so good at it. And I need to put this wording a bit on the actual votes because some people don't know what the ORCA is. I feel when they vote. Sorry. You need to be loud and proud about your ORCA-ness. You need to have a propensity for narcissism, and your predominant strategy needs to be strong-arming people into doing what you want. The previous winners of this are Kevin from Melbourne's Survival 1, which only Kyle will probably remember. We have Matt, the infinite complainer from Backyard.
I forgot Matt was an ORCA. Great.
We have Dom from Canberra. Season 1 was in a moment. I know you don't watch it, Bryan, but when he got voted off, he was so he'd torn off his shirt to show that he didn't have an idol.
I know who Dom is, so that's how. Yeah.
There you get it. Yeah, he was the ORCA of Canberra. You get it. This season for the ORCA, we take in the fan votes, and then we take in the ORCA Council's votes. Who do you think is the most ORCA of the season?
I would say Jeff.
I'll go Andrew.
This is some great calls from you. That is in fact 1 and 2. God damn it, Kat. Before we get into that, I would like to note the equal third place, which was Ben and James. And I really love that for James, because James came on with an objective to basically play like an ORCA. He got voted out very early, which is a risk of playing like an ORCA. And I'm glad his evil dad game or whatever he had planned finally got some recognition. So good for him. But the winner of this award for this season is Andrew. Jeff has come in second. I think Jeff had a lot of potential to win this award, but I think Andrew was just such a star of the season that he really permeated through a lot of these votes and the season. Liz has been great on this season, I must say. She's been watching every episode, even though she got voted out so early. She was a great part of this season as well. Thank you for joining, Liz. I'm sure you're going to be all over our coverage of Warrandyte next season. Now, that's the awards. We can welcome Andrew to the club. Frankly, I would have rather it gone to Jeff, given Andrew's unwillingness to even appear on this program, where I feel like Jeff would be jumping at the bit to come on and claim his ORCA award. But it is what it is, democracy rules, and we're just going to have to go with that. Okay, so tell me, guys, what was in your minds when you'd made Yards Apart season 2, and 2 weeks later, you said, let's do another one? What were you thinking?
Well, it wasn't quite like that. We filmed season 1, and then it was more like right after season 1, we wanted to do another one again. We're like, let's do it again. But we couldn't. We couldn't do it straight away. And so the compromise that we made was, well, why don't we do 2 in 6 months' time? Pretty much. Actually, it was in January. So we'll do 2 at the end of the year. That's plenty of time to prep, and we can just do them 2 weeks apart. That was the idea. So we had 3 was already organized and almost ready to go by the time that we filmed Yards Apart.
Okay, so
still not a great decision.
Yes, the planning, so be it. But the burnout aspect, and look, I don't want to be insulting to anyone on this cast, okay? But obviously you were recruiting from the same pool, and the Yards Apart cast is incredibly strong. And sometimes I'm going to make a music analogy. Some of your bands, they put out a double album. They put out the double album, and there's great songs on both albums. But sometimes you wonder if they just put the good songs all on one album, wouldn't that have been better? Now, I'm not saying that. I think there's obviously some good characters here, and season 2 is very good. You guys know how much I love season 2. Do you think there was an element of that this was the runoff, so to say, of the other season with the ideas, with the car? I'm not the cast. I'm not trying to be mean, but you know what I mean. The location's obviously a lot better for season 2. No offense to whoever's house you got at last minute, which we'll get into. Do you think that was a factor?
It's interesting because I think when we were planning both, we had in our minds that we still wanted season 3 to be a level up from 2. So in our planning, we were like, right, what ideas do we have that the next level up from 1, they will go in season 2. And then when we step it up again, that'll be season 3. So we were thinking along the terms of the challenges we were doing, which as simple as it is, we were like, all right, season 2, it's like, ooh, we've got low beams now. And then in season 3, it's like, now we've got elevated beams. We've stepped it up again. In terms of the advantages in the season as well, season 2, it was only idols that were involved. Season 3 is when we start introducing vote advantages and more of those twists throughout it. So we kind of thought that we were continuing in the Survivor, however many seasons of US Survivor, we were slowly sort of tracking that and playing catch up with these subsequent seasons. That's what we had in our mind that we were doing. In terms of the casting, we were very much approaching it that we wanted anyone who wanted to play. It's let's create this opportunity. Anyone who wants to experience Survivor, let's be people that offer that to them. And
it's a different world now, though, isn't it?
That's right. Now there's too many people. Yeah. So we were people applying we're going to have so many people. There's too many people to just do one season. So we'll do the 2. And then all these people who were interested get a chance. There was also people that knew each other that were applying, and we thought, well, we're going to have to put them on separate seasons to keep it fair. So you and your best friend want to play, great. You can be season 2, you can be season 3. So there was also that kind of approach in the casting.
And like anyone who has ever been involved with casting one of these shows knows that like people drop out, people do pull out, and you do have to find subs last minute.
Who was a sub in this season? Jake?
No. Jake wasn't a sub, but he was a tentative. Yes, I think he was FIFO, so I think there was a moment where we weren't sure if he'd be on it, but he wasn't a sub. Samara agrees to do it the day before.
Okay.
Yeah. And like I look, I'm aware that the public opinion on season 3 is potentially not the best, but I love watching people like Samara play the game, where it's just like she's working it out as she goes. And she has actually like quite natural killer instincts. Like Samara's lying in ways that people who know the game aren't. So like when she's
I agree. She completely just savages Ben on that boat, even though they seem very close. And Jake does the same thing as well. And Jake does such a magnificent job of pretending he doesn't know what a super idol is, that Halim would never even consider that Jake possibly had that super idol. So, you know what I mean? Like Jake's game was to play dumb, and he played dumb. He was not dumb, but he played dumb so well that everyone just thought.
Yeah.
I think it was Samara, Maddie, and Kiara were all people that became part of the cast between 2 and 3. So it was after season 2, we had people drop out, and that's when those 3 joined.
What a legacy for Kiara there.
Yeah.
Okay, well, while we talk through this, this season, as you said, you really wanted to up the twists, up the advantages, and you did, and they were fantastic, and no one used any of them, which I'm sure was
yes.
So there are it appeared to me on the cast, when you did the tribe selection, that it was a genuine random draw. Is that correct?
Yeah.
So was there a gendered split though? Because you got equal gender splits on both tribes.
Yeah, so it was like women are picking from one basket, men from another, so that we get an even gender split. Yeah, because we did it like.
Sorry. Yeah. So you were basically determining, though, therefore, that a male was going to get the idol advantage on purple and a female was going to get the idol advantage on orange. That's how you ensured that there was an idol in each tribe.
There was, so it was always going to be like a man and a woman that got, so like the buffs with those clues in it were in one in each basket.
Yeah.
And one of each color. Yeah.
Have to figure that out. Cool. And I love that with how going to Exile. I think that was a excellent start. What about the people that knew each other, though? Like, you weren't able to sort the cast. Like, it's fortuitous that Liz and Kath end up separated. And also Hal, who I understand is very good friends with Liv from working at the Apple store with Bryan. I learned from from Hal's Deep Dive. Liv?
Olivia. They definitely knew each other from working together. I don't know how well they knew each other.
How's he like? Yeah, no, we were close, and she expected me to work with her to get the merge. I wasn't. I wanted to do it, but I couldn't get the numbers, so sorry.
Like, they definitely knew each other. Like Kath and Liz, that could definitely have been a thing. And I remember having a moment with Carl where, like, afterwards we were like, well, that worked out.
And even just in like tribe makeup, like we looked at the 2 tribes and went, well, if we were going to decide the tribes ourselves, this probably isn't far from how we would have split it. Just in like different strengths in physicality on the 2 tribes. Like they seemed quite balanced.
Yeah, like Jeff and Jake on opposite tribes. Like, it did work out, but it's just such a risk to leave it so uncontrolled.
It is.
Would you do that again?
Well, I think with that, it was like we didn't want to. Survivor's always a social experiment, so you don't want to just run the same experiment again and again. So we were like, we have done the thing where we have predetermined the tribes. Let's do the different thing, which is we haven't determined it. So yeah, it's really just like trying to come up with different ways to start the game and shuffle the deck.
Yeah, and sometimes we get
No, you're
flack
right.
like for like, oh, you put it like, you know, we would have done better on a different tribe. At least something like this. It's like it's not up to us.
Yeah. I think it's a fascinating insight where a lot of what you're running here is very different, I would say, to what you're probably doing now, in that we want to make sure everyone has a good time. We want to make sure everyone gets to play the game. We want to make sure that we don't interfere as production into the way these tribes are. Now, fuck that. We're going to interfere and make sure the tribes are good. It's going to make good
TV. Yeah. And that's like,
you were making the experience before, and now it's more like you're making a show.
Yeah, it certainly has evolved, and it's reflective in, you know, how we've approached the edit of season 3 as well, which, like, totally agree. I think we would both say, like, these episodes should be shorter. And if we were to edit it now with the mentality we have now, I think our skills have improved, so we know how to take those shortcuts to get all the story across, but showing less to get there. But we were really approaching it from, this is all of these people's experience. We want to make sure that all of them are fairly shown, so that they can watch it back. And yeah, we were really taking that approach of like not leaving anybody out. I think now would be a bit more strategic with like, you still get to highlight people at the right times.
Yeah, I think that's it, where it's just like, I think we have a better idea of our skills and like holistic narrative storytelling, where it's just like, you know, potentially you don't hear from someone in episode 1, and that's fine because you'll hear from them a lot later. You know, I think, yeah, we would probably edit it a little bit differently now.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. Snyder, who's a regular listener, he's a virtual racer from America, said, "Happy birthday, thank you. It's actually my 40th birthday today."
What a way to spend it. Thanks for spending your birthday.
I did like 2.5 hours doing another podcast earlier as well. So anyway, that's what I love to do. Well, Survivor's on like, you know, 4 nights a week. It's hard to find the time at the moment.
That's right, yeah.
One thing we were talking about, first Exile, you give how a fake idol making kit, not an idol. Obviously, we talked about a lot in the coverage so far that how was the perfect person to go to Exile because he was just so naturally social and easy with people that he was able to so easily just go into that orange tribe, and they always treated him like he was always part of it. As a viewer, I always viewed him as always part of it. You know, so I'm like, well, there's 8 orange at the merge. You know, sorry, Kiara. Like, there's 8 orange at the merge. That's how I saw it. So he didn't need that fake idol, and as you might recall, he tried to use it at every possible opportunity he could for some reason. What, though, if someone less social, let's say, you know, perhaps a Jeff who did try to rub some people the wrong way immediately, if he'd gone there, what were you envisioning a player could do with that fake idol to sort of save themselves?
Yeah, so if you were playing on a season and somebody goes to Exile straight up, what would you expect would happen for them there? You'd probably expect that they got something, right? And so that's what we were really banking on, is that people probably suspect that they do have something and they've got the opportunity to make something to help sell that story. They were already going to be saved from the first tribal council. So they weren't going to be the first one out.
Yeah.
And so it was like, they've already had a freebie, no more freebies. Now you've got to work for your safety here. Get crafty with it.
And you got to remember as well, we planned this after season 1, where Rachel gives Daniel that fake idol, and he is this close to playing it, and like we're this close to having that moment where someone plays the fake idol, and we're like, sorry. So there's a temptation for us there of like, ooh, can we get this? Can we manufacture a fake idol into this game, and can we get this moment? And the answer is no.
I think what you've said is what I had hoped, that, you know, you could tell, if I was in that situation, I'd tell my tribe, I've got an idol, but it's only good for the first tribal council. So I'm just going to, you know, don't worry about me there, and then it's gone. And that would make sense, and I think people would buy that. the one thing that we were discussing is the ethics and appropriateness of whether you should give a fake idol making kit paper and texture to make the paperwork, or is that too deceptive in that they can go around hiding a package with an idol and the paperwork, which everyone will always then believe is legit.
Yeah, there is this like culture around parchment, right? Where it's just like, you don't see the note.
Where's the note?
legit.
I don't buy it.
Yeah, where's the note? Where's the note? Yeah. Potentially, but also I think if I saw a handwritten note from a player, I'd be like, yeah, all right, buddy.
Yeah, because I must say I played in playing with Fire, and I can tell you all the notes there were handwritten because I think production forgot to make them before they got there. So you could have made it work, but yeah, I think for the most of the time they're tight. I know you're listening, Liz. She particularly liked the fake idol making kit and the rock idol. Now the rock idol, she said, backyard props are pretty top tier if you've got bad handwriting. That's good. Now, the rock idol, what percentage did you put on? And, you guys are big Survivor Super fans. Rocks doesn't happen that often. Yeah. What percentage did you think there was a chance of that thing actually getting used?
I didn't think it was going to happen.
Nah, very, very little. But what we liked about it was whether it got used or not, someone would definitely get it at Exile, because it was an idea that hadn't been done before, and we were like, we want to introduce this into the Survivor universe. So simply by someone getting it at Exile, there's a chance to kind of explain it and have it out there, and that was probably enough for us.
Yeah. We thought people will talk about like the possibilities of it. How might you play it? We were excited to start that conversation, even if it didn't get played.
Yeah, and the knock-on effects as well.
3 times in US history. Yeah.
But we also thought potentially the knock-on effects of like, even if it doesn't get played in 3, like people will now be wary of it in seasons in the future as well. So we were like, yeah, even just having it out there is enough.
Yeah.
And and then it happening was just absolutely wild.
Yeah.
And it was an incredible moment when it did happen. You must have been so excited that they were going to Rocks. You probably saw it coming with that 3-3, which you did slightly engineer in a bit. We can talk about, I want to talk about the tribe swap. No, we'll talk about the tribe swap and talk about the Rocks. So we get to the tribe swap, and you've got it basically going to happen that there are, because they're taking from different baskets again, you're going to end up with a 3-3-3-3 just because of the way the numbers were at the time.
Yeah.
If it had been a different immunity run, it could have ended up differently. But it's even numbers at that point. And they've gone 3-3-3-3, and someone's going to Exile, which is definitely going to impact the numbers, like obviously because that's the extra number. And you've obviously put the extra one in orange, the ones the orange guys are picking from. The Exile is definitely going to be an orange person. So you set up the 3-3, which I think made a lot of sense and made interesting post swap episodes, and made the I think it's probably one of the higher points of the season, and it's very interesting on both sides. So we get to, and you probably see this rock draw coming, and were you thinking, oh wow, they're going to vote for Caitlin though? Is she going to hand off the rock? Is she going to know what to do with it? I don't know what sort of level of fan she was. How are you thinking going into that? Do you think it was going to play out once you could see what that vote was going to be?
I think there's still like some doubt, right? Like even when it goes to a tie, it's like, okay, it's tied, but someone's going to flip. Someone's not going to be down for rocks.
And I could be wrong, but they're not the first tribe post-swap to have gone to tribal. So...
Right, yeah, the other tribe has already gone.
They've not gone to rocks.
Yeah.
Yeah. You may also be overestimating how much is going to happen ahead of time, particularly in 2 and 3. Like, I think, I'm not sure if we knew exactly how that was going to play out going into it.
The other tribe was a bit tricky because, well, not tricky, less tricky, because Jeff had been vilified, I think somewhat unfairly, sort of across both tribes as a big baddie for some reason. And so, it was sort of the easy move, and Zach and Maddie were never going to rocks for him. So that was sort of like one and done. I felt the person who got most hard done by the Rock Idol, as I said in detail on the recap coverage, was poor Raph. And Andrew vilified poor Raph for flipping on their alliance by suggesting that possibly they should just agree to vote out Caitlin, even though she clearly hands the rock off to Andrew over him. Andrew's now safe. And Rafe's doing a one-on-one rock draw with Steven.
Yeah.
And apparently Rafe's the bad guy for even contemplating that they should have perhaps not gone to rocks. And Andrew speaks like, this is one of his many great moments, like he was at risk and he was, I did it too. So what are you complaining about?
Yeah. And I think, honestly, Andrew has a large part of the way that this tribal council plays out and the fact that we see the rock draw happen, because he really strong arms this whole situation to happen, which I think other players would not do. And you can kind of see, you literally see Raph buckle here. He's like, why don't we just vote Caitlin? And I just think that's not Andrew's gear.
The one little mistake that Andrew made that Raph should have capitalized on if he could was he takes the rock. It's handed to him before Raph gets up to vote the second time. And you see Raph see it happen. And if I saw that happening, I'm Raph. Okay, I'm flipping like this.
Yeah. He does almost flip. Like it's very close to Raph flipping there.
I think he would have, he wanted to flip. He just left at that moment too late, because when he was going up to vote, he just hadn't computed the thoughts about, how can I protect myself?
Yeah. And Raph is someone who's not a huge Survivor fan. So this is also him working it out as he goes as well.
Can I say that I just generally loved the challenges this season?
Good.
That they're really, really strong. And, I'm someone that doesn't particularly like challenges in real Survivor. And so certainly in LRG challenges, you can be a bit like, switch off. It's just, there's not, it's not that exciting. But the challenges, I think, were really strong. I made them in my notes when you did the tire flip challenge. I was like, they have to show like 9 rounds of this, are they? And but as it went on, I was actually really enjoying it, because it was a really interesting strategic and sort of physical game. And so it was really interesting to see the way everyone played it. And you had that a few times with different challenges where there were rounds and you could see how people could play them in different ones like that. I loved the pickle counter. That was a great one.
Yeah. I think it's those things where we start to have fun with the edit. That I think we do more of now, but yeah.
You guys are infamous for doing, the eating challenges. I'd say this is probably one of your more softer ones. I think when you blend it up, it's probably a bit more gross. The crickets and whatever. I think they sounded gross in concept. They just weren't.
Just really dry.
It was like the Wheat Bix from the season. It was a season 1 callback with the Wheat Bix. The location, I've heard you say, I didn't know this until I think I started this coverage and you posted something about it. Backup location, original location fell through, something like that?
Yeah.
Well, what was it supposed to be more like? Because I think as a person who was watching this back in the day, I love, I've made it very clear much I love Yards Apart. I know they're in backyards, but it doesn't look like it. There's a creek and, there's it's a big and wide, it's some river, obviously. That's, a great location. I'm like, oh, it's still a backyard, but they've really gone up from the backyard and backyard. And then I watch this one, I'm like, they're back in a bit of a backyard. What was the original sort of location?
The original location was meant to be the same place as season 2.
Okay.
But famously, we went to 5 a.m. in the morning on season 2.
And the neighbors did not like that, and they were not happy for us to do it 2 weeks later.
Yeah.
And that was a friend's property or something like that?
Yeah. So pretty much the neighbors were expressed that they were not happy with how season 2 played out and it going through the night. Then it was like, this is not the place to host another one of these 2 weeks later.
even though I've made the comment that, this location seemed to step down from Backyard to, I think in retrospect, and I'd be interested in your view, it's better you didn't go back there. It's better that they have their own unique identity.
Different aesthetic. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and this yard did work well for it.
This yard is bizarre. There's a pool, there's like a foresty area, there's a green area, there's like an industrial, scrap yard. What's going on?
Yeah.
Season 2 was a really big location, and it took a lot out of our crew. So the fact that, really not by our choice, Season 3 ends up being a smaller location that probably helps out the crew 2 weeks later.
Yeah. Well, as for the crew, which poor crew members had to tie all those knots in the knot challenge? I couldn't believe the amount of knots that have been tied. It was like, I think you said it was like 17 because you've been playing for 17 hours or something.
There's 17 players. Yeah.
Yeah. And there were so many knots. Like, who tied all of those?
Yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Some amazing crew member. These crew members are coming out. Particularly when you give them shitty jobs like tie a bunch of knots. But they do it anyway. Okay, so we get the merge, and you have the merge auction. I don't think you did something like that in Yards Apart. Am I correct? So what was in Yards Apart? Just a feast?
That was the feast. Yeah.
Oh, I just want to jump in. How did you actually test the Battleback challenge? Because that looked near impossible. Now, obviously, Jeff and Kath both did it, but it looked so fucking hard.
Yeah, it was tested. But a trap that we often fall into where it's like we make the challenge and then we practice the challenge and we go, the challenge is achievable.
Yeah.
But we have spent the time making it and constructing it. So it's achievable for us.
Yes.
But it wasn't tested among a survey of people to see, how would others fare.
And under pressure and after a whole day's worth of events.
Yeah.
So
I can attest that Kyle shouldn't be the test for any level of skill-based challenge. Halfway through a drunk Viva game, he wins the battle back on some sort of ridiculous ball rolling thing that I couldn't do if I was absolutely sober. So, Kyle is obviously just elite at these sorts of skill-based.
We test them out on me.
It was just a bit that they had to balance it on a little ledge. I think the rest of it seemed fine. It was just this tiny ledge, but it made for such an exciting battle back between Kath and Jeff. I'm sure you guys were a bit frustrated because it was probably taking a long time, and you were looking at the clock, and you're like, "Oh my god, we got a whole minute to get through."
So often we're doing this. Yeah,
pretty much the whole time.
You can see it. I think it's final 7. And Bryan's handing over immunity, and I'm just behind him, looking at my watch. I'm just all right, what time is it? I'm moving on to the next segment.
Did you now? I want to check something with you guys, and I could be completely wrong on this, but I was watching the auction episode, the merge episode, which is called "Girl Likes Her Rice," and it really sounded like that was you that said that, Bryan. Am I wrong?
It was one of us.
So you named the episode title after one of you.
Everyone else gets an episode title.
I think it was Kyle because we gave that episode to Kyle, and I'm still yet to have one.
Okay, so you need an episode title. It's not the common approach. You gave Andrew 50, and understandably, you give yourself one, and the rest of the cast stuff them.
Yeah, and it's you always want to try and find something that's a funny or memorable phrase, but also that triggers a memory of the episode as well. And so it's Girl Likes the Rice. It's all right, well, that's the rice is Kath getting the rice, finding the idol in there. It sort of brings back all those associations, I think.
Which, fun fact, that rice idol, I dreamt about an idol being hidden in the bottom of a rice bowl maybe a week before the season, and we changed what we were going to do that. So thanks. thanks Spring Bryan.
It's fine. Look, I'm sure when you did it, you didn't expect in 3 or 4 years' time you'd be on a podcast about it with someone who watched it so religiously, taking notes to go, "Who said that? Is that one of the hosts?" But no one will ever notice my little secret moment. there was actually like you guys. I've told you before. You're both very great in tribal and the commentary in the challenges. But there was an amazing moment for probably the best thing either you could have ever said in your life. But you know, in these moments, it's hard to think. When Jeff misspelt the word, he was spelling revenge, or Kath, I think, spelt revenge. But had it wrong. Got it wrong. You know, how did you not go with something like revenge is a word best spelt correct? Anyway, correct. Something like that. Anyway, it was cool. It was cool, and it was a great battle back. And you've rolled in as production. You're sitting there and you're going, "Oh my god, gets merged. We have 8 people from Orange, everyone from Orange, but poor Kiara is there." And I felt so bad for Kiara for a moment until I realized what she goes on to do. So now I don't feel so bad about it. But what a legacy all these 9 Oranges have, and 2 from Purple. They got to do something soon, right? Something interesting. Please, go.
Like the Orange?
Yeah, like break it up, guys. Break it up.
Yeah. So like when we're planning a season, like we kind of do like the mud map of possibilities. This is how it could play out. This is where the numbers could break down, just to see what those permutations are. And we do the extremes to see, right, okay, if this is like the losingest tribe and they're just the ones that lose the number every single time, what does that look like? And having an 8 versus 2 at the merge was that worst case scenario. It's like they do lose 2 members, but because they lose the first one, they get hell. Which like if that was flipped, then if Purple lost, they get hell, and then Orange lose, then they're down that number. But it just so happens that they lost the first one, which meant they gained back that number. And the person who gets back from the battle back is from that tribe. Like it could have been all these purples. So many purples in the battle back. Then it's someone from that tribe. So like
it was almost
those are the kind of
it was almost
so close. So like all these things sort of had to happen to end up with that worst case scenario, which is an 8 versus 2, like a most skewed balance in the numbers.
I want to talk about the Super Idol. The concept of a Super Idol is quite a divided idea in a lot of Survivor fandom. Some people think they're just too overpowered. We have seen a Super Idol after this in Australia and LRG in Canberra season 2, where they decided to put in all of the advantages. And it was a straight Super Idol, not the sort of ones from Karong that you've got here. How are you sort of hoping it would play out? Because surely you're hoping it would play out differently to it actually did,
I don't know.
It's sort of like we wanted to be on the 2 sides of the fight, right?
Yeah.
And we hadn't done a 2-tribe season before because in a quick game, in an LRG, it's like it's hard to make a move where you're going to flip on that original alliance because it's moving so fast. You play safe, which was also part of like why we introduced so many different advantages into this game. It's like if this is going to be a story of 2 sides, then we want to inject a lot of ammunition and make sure that people have the tools to play a game. And if they end up in the wrong side of the numbers, then there's enough different elements to the game that they could have a way to get out of it. And so doing this like 2 people at Exile from opposing tribes, having this like potential joint power was a way to sort of like forge something that was cross-tribal. So I think it was more about that rather than the idol playing out as a super idol necessarily itself. It was the idea of bringing these 2 people together and them having that potential that they would be, cross-tribal alliance.
And I think that was very much intended. Like, I've made a lot of jokes at Liz's expense about her not playing her half of the idol. And I said that when I've told the story that when I applied to be on Melbourne Survivor 3 and I had the interview with her and JP and Vince, they asked at the end of the interview, do you have any other questions? And I said, yeah, Liz, why didn't you play your Exile? Like, you were clearly going home. Like, was that just the edit, or like, was it obvious? She's like, No, it was pretty obvious. And I asked her, like, why didn't you play it, right? Because she really wanted, she just got it. She'd formed that bond with Hal, and she really, really wanted to use that as something the two of them could have worked together in the future. And I think so. What you envisaged did actually occur. She just then got immediately voted out, and the whole reason she didn't use it is because she wanted to save it. Like she wanted to get back with Hal, and he's like, "Oh, you know, we got the Super Idol." It's like, "Oh no, I played it," you know. But then obviously the problem was Jake didn't know that there was even another half, or who had the other half, or you know, to know how to put that back together.
Yeah, I feel like my initial thought when you asked like how did you want this to play out, surely not the way it did. I think like my initial thought is, I think when you put something in the game, you just want it to have some story and not go anywhere. So like you're right, like that temptation to hold on to it as a super idol and not play it as an idol creates this moment where Liz holds on to it, and you know it's devastating for her. And like, yes, I know that they all kind of hold on to their idols until the end of the game, but that moment where they're all trying to pass off their idols in the back row, to me that is like that is enough. Like, sure, is it the most exciting permutation? Probably not, but like it's still these three who just like have been together the whole time but not shared these secrets, trying to pass everything on the back row. Like to me that's the advantages and idols playing dividends, even if it's not in the way that they are traditionally meant.
It is. It's a top tier moment. Like I think if you guys were putting like your top 10 backyard moments, like it's in there. It might even be top 5. It's a lot to get there. Like a lot of watching to get to that.
It's a lot
moment,
to get there.
When it gets there, it's so exciting. It's like because they don't even know that they have these idols. They're aligned with each other. It's like, no, I got one. No, it's all right. I got one. Like it was amazing.
No, poor Andrew's spouting off at the front row, not a chance in hell.
Though you had the chance of everyone being immune, I believe, at that tribal council.
Yes.
Which you had not just an advantage getting Serene, like everyone could have theoretically been immune if you hadn't keyed your idols right. Did you realize that at some point? Was that a concern? You go, well, look, that's not going to happen, but like theoretically it could happen now.
Yeah. Yep. We've considered that as a possible permutation.
And we have a plan.
You should make them all go to rocks or something. You're all immune. All right, rocks.
You all won.
You're all the winners. And so I think it rolls through. And Andrew's like lifting a lot on his shoulders, but I do. Hal played a fantastic game, and you edited that well. And his social game's incredible, especially good at strategic and challenges as well. Like he's up there with Jake with a lot of the challenges. Who's that real strong challenge beast. There's that lovely moment with Samara where she thinks her idol needs to be played, but then we get a report from Rosie who's like, "No, you got one more." It's like, one more? It's like guaranteed like final point. So yeah,
like, thanks for telling me.
Wow, you think you're telling me? Awesome.
Yeah. Like they're the moments we love, and that's what we like to play with in the edit as well, like including those things. Jake forgetting Samara's name after being aligned with her the whole game. It's just like Tanisha.
Tanisha? Is who's Tanisha?
And I love Samara and Jake being in this alliance, and they're probably like the two most potty mouthed contestants on our cast. They're just like constantly bleeping them out. I love it. It's so funny.
So and then the tribal council is pretty good. Like Hal does a great job. The other two, I think you can tell that you can see their lack of sort of survivor knowledge coming out a bit and how to play the whole affair. I think Hal does an amazing job with it. I don't know if you've seen from our previous ones, but you cancelled Sammy's question, I believe, not just in the edit, but just in the real time. You're not going to make them do fuck, shoot, marry. What was the thinking on that? It's trying to make a family friendly program or something.
It's look. So I think if we do the re-edit, which we're not doing, but if we were to re-edit it, we just wouldn't include Sammy's question because this has continued to haunt us.
Oh, this is not the first time. It's not just this coverage. This has occurred previously.
This has occurred previously.
Oh, interesting.
Where I feel like it's become a running joke now for this season. I think as you discovered when you were trying to answer it yourself on the podcast, that it seems fun. And then you go, oh, I can't really say that. Oh, what's my partner going to think? Like, oh, let me just find what the tame answer is here. And it just kind of fizzles. And that's what happened in real time. Like the final three, like sort of try and skirt around it. Like Jake's girlfriend's like right there on the crew. It's like, what am I meant to say right now? So yeah, it was just really awkward. And that's why you don't see it.
I think, look, it was you're spot on, and thank you for watching into 2 hours and 40 minutes without that podcast where I tried to do it because it was my idea. Let's do it, Jules. And like Jules just smashes out 3. She's like boom, 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 and I'm like, I don't know, I don't want to be like objectifying the women, so I'm just gonna fuck Steven. Okay, I'm a straight guy. Steven's a really good-looking guy. I'm gonna objectify the guy. I feel better about that. I'm like, if I was giving that answer at the final tribal council and I was sitting on the jury, I'd be fucking annoyed. Like this sucks. So good call. We should have cut a question. Like, no one would have known.
Totally. We should have cut a question. But again, it's like, oh, it's Sammy's jury question. We got to give her moment. It doesn't happen.
It does appear like in the edit. So I misunderstood this. It appears in the edit like you say, oh, you don't have to answer that, and it just doesn't happen.
Which is what we say like after they sort of try to answer it and try and excuse themselves from it, and we were like, we need to cut this off.
Because isn't there also a question that's like, how do you hide a body?
I think we might have cut that one out completely.
God, that's a great question.
That one didn't make
Where would you hide a body? Like,
it did happen.
Is how you going to vote for who you want to win?
It's a weird. We're at the end here, and there was one thing. I'm just looking at my notes. What did I want to talk about that I didn't talk about? When you had the back-to-back tribals. And I'm like, oh God, Zach's done here. Like he's not going to have any opportunity to organize something. And then that, Andrew had prearranged that flip on Ben. That's a fantastic moment in the season because I was just sure it was going to go the way as everything else was going to get another boring Zach vote. Like I think he's going to win immunity. He's up at the final. Him and Andrew. He doesn't win it. He's a super fan, and I'm like, he can win this. I can because I'm like I can't answer these questions. My eyes closed. Like if I said to Kyle, if I was there on this season, I don't know what you would have done because we would have been 2 hours into this quiz and I would have been getting all the questions right. Like, that's what would have done. I don't know what you would have done. Maybe you just got to do like a closest to this number and like how many survivors did there been in total or something, But I think Zach can win. He doesn't win. He's going to get voted out. And he doesn't. When you got those votes from the urn and saw that there'd been a flip on Ben, you guys must have been like, yes.
Yeah. And like we had no idea. Like we weren't expecting to see it. And then it's like, it's a tie. We're like, what's going on? The game is shaking up.
And I remember sitting there and trying to be professional, but like kind of like looking at Zach and being like, oh, buddy, like, sorry, this prearranged twist really has left you over. And I remember him giving me like sympathetic eyes, like.
And then I remember he got peace out, bitches.
But I remember when he left that tribal, he looked at me and he's like, I knew. I was like, oh, you got me.
I knew it was happening. Okay,
yeah.
Because it wasn't. I don't know if you left it out of the edit for the surprise. And if you did, like, if there was actually a meeting where they said they're all going to do that, because it wasn't clear though. Watching it sort of back a bit, you can see Andrew putting in the work. He's saying Ben's shifty. He's saying that to various people. And he's obviously got his crew. He's telling Zach, you vote for who I say and you'll be safe. He's obviously lined up Raph and Caitlin. And then he's put in the work with Jake and Samara, not to say flip on Ben, but, Ben's shifty. He's lying. We're going to get rid of him. And then when they see it's 4-4, they're like, flip. Like, because he put in the work. It's one of his more masterful moves because it does. He does it slowly, but executes it like on a dime when he wouldn't have expected to, because he wouldn't have assumed that he was going to back-to-back trial.
Yeah, absolutely. Welcome to efficiency.
Yes, one of his many episode titles. Liz said she wrote some of the questions, so I assume that you actually had the jury writing the questions, which is fun.
The pre-merge.
Yeah.
Pre-merges were given us there. Yeah.
Well, I think that's it for, I guess, what I wanted to talk about with the season. Look, I've talked to Kyle about it. I've talked to people about, going in, I was a little bit neg on the season. I never finished it, which I told him. I sort of stopped watching around when Liz got booted. I don't know why. I think it also aired. And there's a lot of other stuff on. Like sometimes, there's other Survivor or Australian Survivor, which is such a marathon event to watch. And I just stopped. And I knew that I didn't think it was going to be the most super interesting season, but I think as we talked about here, there are actually a lot of really wonderful moments that really do pay off if you put in the long hours. And Andrew's a star, but there's a lot of other fantastic people on here. Like I don't look at Andrew and go, he's the only one you could possibly bring back. There's other quality consistency. I think Zach was fantastic. Obviously, we had Maddie and Ben on the Tea Party because they were so fantastic in what they were bringing. Ben particularly, I think, was really, really fun and had a great approach to it all. And you have a good mix of people that aren't super fans, which is really important to sort of keep it interesting. Like you can see how beloved Jaden was on this season of Australian Survivor, just because he brought a different energy. Which is sort of what Jake was. We were saying that Jake could get on Australian. Maybe not now, but back in the day when they used to cast 10 Jakes, Jake could have got on. Just good looking guys in great shape. Doesn't really know much about it. He's a bit of a larrikin. Yep, you're on.
I personally really like the season. But I'm someone who I try not hang my enjoyment of a season on the boot order. Only because sometimes it is sometimes it is pretty predictable. I mean,
if you look at it on paper, it's it doesn't seem interesting, but the journey is enjoyable.
Yeah, enjoyable and fun, and so that's kind of how I think about this. Yeah, because I think if you look at heroes versus villains in Survivor, and you looked at the boot order, it's not that great.
No.
But is always considered one of the top seasons of all time. Not that I'm saying that season 3 Exile is in the upper echelon with heroes versus villains, but you get my point.
And it's here in the voting, and look, I think obviously because I've announced that number 7 is Warren Diet. You guys have 2 seasons in the top 6, and you're the only LRG with 4 seasons that you could vote for. So I do feel that, and there was a bit of parochialism, I'm sure, in the way people voted. We have our own communities, you have the ones you've been on, etc. And I think, and some people may have only watched Backyards. They're like 1, 2, 3, 4. But, the fact is, people are going to prioritize what are known as your better seasons and what are your better seasons. And that's 2 and 4. So I don't think it deserves necessarily to be you could argue it's better than Warren Diet in places, but it's just that factor of people have prioritized your best ones because they want you to do well.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah, cool, fun.
It's getting dark, and I know and plan and prep for the big next season, which is very exciting. And I thank you again for making the time, because I can imagine what it's like this week, and I appreciate the support that you give me and what I'm trying to do with this program and coming on and talking about it and sharing it with your groups and everything like that. So I really do appreciate it, and you taking the time. And of course, I say thank you. Do people ever thank you? They do a bit, but at the end. But thank you for being one of the 5 groups of people that lead these LRGs and make these content for people to enjoy, to play these games, to build this community. It's a huge thing to do. I know how much work it takes. I did it once and I'm not doing it again, but you're doing it. And I wasn't even running the shit. I was just sort of 2IC level, but I still wouldn't do it again. But I'd rather just podcast about it now. But the effort you put in and you're still putting in is huge and should be commended. And thank you. And I look forward to chatting with you guys when we cover whatever season of yours might come up next, whenever it might come up next. Exciting. Stick around for a moment before when I hang up the show. But thank you again. Thank you everyone that watched. We'll be back probably next week. As I said, I'm only halfway through Warrandyte, and like it's 13 episodes, and they're all for like an hour, so it's very long. But I'll try and binge it and finish it. Hopefully, Jules is binging it, and we will have that next week, and then all the usual coverage. You know, I think we can have a good cast of people for the tea party. I'm actually, I've got two in my mind, but who's the third? Could be very interesting. Anyway, come that Warrandyte is March, and you know, I could probably announce season 6, the sixth best season, because Warrandyte, everyone knows it's 7. I'm going to announce what 6 anyway next week, so why not announce it? 6, the sixth best season in LRG history is Brisbane. Sam Green's amazing first effort as a man on his own, trying to get something out. It's a weird season with just sort of his family and friends, but the production and the editing from someone in their first go is better than anyone of all the like big names have done from a first go. It's absolutely unbelievable. So if you haven't watched Brisbane, after you watch Warrandyte, get binging with Brisbane. It's a shorter season, and the production and quality is incredible. So thank you, everyone. I will catch you soon.